What's going on, guys? My name is Wade with Tech Daily. So over the weekend, Ferrari invited me and a couple hundred other owners, enthusiasts, and friends to get a first look at Luce, Ferrari's all-new, all-electric vehicle. Now, if you've been living under a rock the last few months, Ferrari actually already announced Luce, first with a barrage of visuals and videos showcasing the interior, which is a completely reimagined driver and passenger space with new screens, new physical touch points, more seats than any Ferrari ever, and then ultimately unveiled the actual vehicle itself a few weeks ago. Seeing Luce online through the pictures and videos is one thing, but actually getting to experience it in person, sit in it, play with all the buttons and knobs, take in all the different interior and exterior design elements, it certainly changed my perspective on Luce in more ways than one. And in this video, I want to talk about what Luce is really like. I'll give you an up-close look at those different design elements, the driver and passenger interfaces, and I'll explain who I think this vehicle is really for. So before Ferrari pulled the covers off of the two Luce demo models they had for us, Luca Zanetti, president of Ferrari North America, walked us through even more Luce lore. He explained Ferrari's partnership with LoveFrom, the design firm founded by former Apple design chief Jony Ive, and he also showed videos of Ferrari F1 drivers Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc driving Luce all giddy with excitement. And then, ta-da, the covers came off, and we were free to explore Luce inside and out. Now, the immediate thing you notice about Luce, beyond its very striking design, is actually its size. Luce is large. It's longer than a Purosangue, which is Ferrari's literal SUV, or FUV as they call it. It's wider than the Tesla Model Y by some 3 or 4 inches, and it's taller than the Mercedes EQS. Obviously, Luce's size is a selling point, since it's now the first 5-seater Ferrari. Driver, passenger, plus 2 rear seats and a usable middle seat with no center divide. The other exterior element that's almost an optical illusion in pictures is Luce's wheel size. These are 23-inch wheels in the front and 24-inch wheels in the back, which are the largest ever on a Ferrari. The jet turbine-inspired aero wheels kind of disguise the size since there's no point of reference, but the 5-spoke wheels allow you to see the carbon ceramic brake discs behind them, and usually carbon brakes look massive, almost the size of the wheel itself, but they look small, or at least normal-sized behind these wheels, which they are certainly not. And as far as the rest of the exterior, well, it's still a Ferrari through and through, with the iconic Ferrari hood badge, fender shields, build plate in the trunk, and countless other Ferrari logos and branded elements. There's no denying that this is a Ferrari, at least from the logos, but from a design standpoint, this is the quintessential EV form factor, not the Ferrari sports car or supercar we're all accustomed to seeing. I mean, the rear taillights everyone says resemble a 360 or some other widely known Ferrari sports cars, but I think that's what's throwing people off, since Ferrari could have taken a more interesting or aggressive approach to the design and aligned it with the rest of its current lineup. But remember, Ferrari left the task of designing this up to Jony Ive and team at LoveFrom, and over the course of about 5 years of continued development, their priorities seem to be the drag coefficient, airflow, and EV efficiency. Luca Zanetti said in his presentation that no Ferrari has ever been this sleek, with the lowest coefficient of drag and perfect airflow, which are all important for maximizing EV range and not necessarily aesthetics. And what you wind up with is this very EV-looking vehicle. Sleek, sort of wedge-shaped, with different areas of the body that very obviously were designed with airflow in mind. And speaking of airflow, one of the most ridiculous design elements of this entire car is probably the windshield wipers. There are 2 of them, one on either side of an absolutely massive windshield. There's probably 6 to 8 inches of glass that extends down into the darker cowl area, and then a ton of space in front of the upper dashboard before you actually get to the see-through glass. And then you've got 2 humongous wipers on either side that have to be 3 feet long at least, but they're set up way out at the extremities for a purpose. Ferrari actually patented this design because those wipers also help manage airflow supposedly around the pillars. I will also just say that like any Ferrari, you can spec Luce to your heart's desire, with a combination of colors and options that make it look, well, more Ferrari. Playing with the configurator, I feel as though there are certain things that make or break the look of this thing. I mean, I know the aero wheels serve a purpose, for example, and since this might be someone's daily driver, a more subtle color is probably the go-to option. option. You could even go badgeless, and then no one will know what this is. But I don't really think any of those things are the point. I think if you want this to look more like a Ferrari, you can certainly accomplish it. On the topic of this being an EV, Ferrari has given us some numbers and specs about the range, the horsepower, the battery capacity, but a lot of it is top-level information and may not be totally accurate when this thing finally hits the road. But they have said that Luce has a peak power output of 1,036 horsepower, seemingly with launch control only. Otherwise, it's closer to 986 horsepower in performance mode, 617 horsepower in tour mode, and 430 horsepower in range mode. Those modes can be enabled via the E-Manatino switch on the new steering wheel, similar to how you control driving modes on other Ferrari models. Obviously, this is EV focused. There are 4 independent motors on Luce, one for each wheel, and the vehicle is powered by a 122 kilowatt-hour battery pack. Much like the horsepower, the range varies depending on your drive mode. Ferrari has been quoting up to 330 miles of range, but that figure comes from the European test cycle, and the official EPA rating hasn't really been published. The EPA numbers almost always are lower, so realistically, I would expect 280 to 300 miles of range once it's actually tested, and a lot of this, like I said, is to be determined in the real world. One thing that hasn't been talked a lot about with Luce is how fast it charges. Luce runs an 800-volt architecture and can pull up to 350 kilowatts on a DC fast charger, which is about as quick as anything else on sale right now. Ferrari says that works out to roughly 70 kilowatt hours back in about 20 minutes of charge, so the range might be the weak spot, but the charging is pretty much the opposite. While plenty of folks were quick to criticize the spec sheet for Luce, I think it's relatively competitive outside of its reported range, and especially given its battery size and the vehicle size. Arguably, it's also not an over-the-top or revolutionary EV product, which also relates negatively to its outrageous price, but more on that in a moment. I hate to keep harping on it, but everything about Luce is just so much bigger in person than you could possibly estimate from a picture. But that's also kind of the point of Luce, because it is a 5-seater family hauler with more interior space than any other Ferrari. Luce is technically the second Ferrari with rear hinged rear doors after the Purosangue. Ferrari calls them welcome doors, but you've likely seen coach doors or suicide doors. This design is super helpful with getting in and out of Luce, and when you step inside, this is not like any Ferrari you've ever been in. Again, because it's so big, you do have a ton of space, especially in the back seat. I am 6'3", and I had plenty of legroom and headroom and shoulder room. With no divide down the center, I do think almost any 5 adults could fit comfortably inside here and get in and out very easily too. And oh, by the way, there's a ton of trunk space. This isn't just for a single set of golf clubs like most supercars. This is for grocery hauling or furniture buying or kids' travel sports. It's a spacious and fully functional SUV-style trunk. Now, while the exterior of Luce might remind you of any EV you see on the road, the inside truly is very unique. Not just from other current or former Ferraris, but from most other passenger vehicles being sold today. And this is where Jony Ive's design firm did all the heavy lifting. This, I think, is also why the interior reminds everyone of an iPhone or an iPad, both with the hardware and the software. It sounds like an exaggeration or cliche, like, oh, the guy who helped design the iPhone helped design this iPhone-looking interior. But that's not a negative in my mind. Everything inside Luce, every touch point, every handle, switch, and button, the materials, the physical and visual design elements are crafted in such a way that makes it feel simple and straightforward, but still incredibly high-end. For example, the doors on Luce are so heavy, and that's partly because the materials are either the leather and Alcantara combination or literal metal. There's no plastic anywhere inside this car. The interior passenger handles are these big metal things. Door handle covers are aluminum. The buttons and switches, big and small, are metal too. Even the air vents are over-engineered machine aluminum with this super satisfying twist method for opening the vent. The best way I can describe the interior of Luce with all these different design elements and materials is that it's functional without being overcomplicated, elevated without being gaudy, and industrial without being sterile or mechanical. And I'll also be honest and say that Ferrari interiors have had a reputation of being, well, not so great. Sticky buttons that goop up and wear down, leather dashboards that shrink or get all wavy, infotainment systems that are less than reliable. I don't know when we'll see these design elements come to another Ferrari, if ever, but every complaint or criticism a former Ferrari owner might have had about the interior build is certainly addressed with Luce. Sitting in the driver's seat of Luce, you get all those same experiences, but with a couple extra screens to look at. And you'll have to excuse all the lights and icons and blinking messages. These demo cars had every button pressed and knob twisted, so this isn't a perfect example of what you'll see on the road, but bear with me, I'll try and still go over what I can. The steering wheel, again, is unlike any current or former Ferrari. It maybe has hints of a wheel from the 60s or 70s, but built with the modern flair of buttons. And physical buttons and switches, not haptic or touch buttons like many current Ferrari models. It's a familiar setup: EV mode switch, parking sensor adjustment, Manatino switch, ride adjustment, windshield wiper modes, and big round blinker buttons by your thumbs. There's even paddle shifters behind the steering wheel. As I've said a million times, the steering wheel itself is also bigger than you'd think. The key for the Luce is also very unique. I don't know if this demo model key was any bigger than a customer key, but it's huge too. It's heavy, thick, with lock, unlock, and trunk open buttons, and to start Luce, you press it into this magnetic hole in the center console, and the key's e-ink display actually changes colors. It's pretty cool if completely over-engineered. And as far as the screens and the OS, well, the driver's display is this very clear, almost retro-looking setup that shows your important driving stuff, and the turnable, adjustable center screen has all the other settings and options for Luce. There are both physical buttons and switches that coincide with on-screen options and touch controls, obviously. The clock is that screen within a screen that we've seen before that can transform into a stopwatch, but this is a very straightforward and very responsive OS that combines the visuals of the car itself with the corresponding options, modes, and settings you're changing. On the one hand, it's a far simpler, cleaner, and clearer interface and significantly smaller screen than what's inside most luxury vehicles and luxury EVs nowadays. But at the same time, I felt it was the right balance of simplicity while still being a modern, smooth, and fast touchscreen interface that's very easy to use. And then there's the matter of the price. Now, technically, there's no official pricing yet. In Europe, it was reported that Luce will start at 550,000 euros. And in good old Uncle Sam dollars, it's looking like Luce will be at least $600,000 before speccing it out, which is not just expensive for an EV, but expensive for a Ferrari. I mean, the Purosangue, by comparison, is a $400,000 to $450,000 SUV. The 849 Testarossa, which is their newest supercar, is slated to be about $550,000. So Luce is shaping up to be literally the most expensive new Ferrari in the, I guess, regular lineup, not counting special edition cars. And I mean, look, yeah, it's more than you could afford, pal, Ferrari. But the price is probably the biggest point of criticism with Luce, which I totally understand. Luce is not a limited production vehicle, as far as we all know. It's also not a cutting-edge EV. It is all new, inside and out, that's for sure. But at that price, and considering everything else we talked about, the range and specs, who is the Ferrari Luce actually for? Well, no one is cross-shopping Luce against a Tesla Model Y, that's for sure. Its closest competitors are likely the Lucid Air Sapphire or Mercedes EQS, but even those are a fraction of the price of Luce. Maybe Ferrari gains a customer who was looking at a Rolls-Royce Spectre, but needed the extra seats for family members or kids. Or maybe a potential Purosangue buyer walks into the store, finds out it's a gas-guzzling V12, and decides to try and save the planet with their EV instead. Really, Luce is going to be for the Ferrari buyer who buys everything else whether they're collecting or playing that Ferrari game. Or it's for the folks in certain parts of the world who want the first, the best, the newest, the wildest, whatever car, if only to be seen in it for a few weeks. Luce is arguably more comfortable and practical than riding around in an SF90, the new Testarossa, or some other special edition car, and it's more expensive anyway. So if you have all the money in the world and every other vehicle, Luce is that brand new thing that likely no one else is going to have, that everyone is looking at right now, that is also a Ferrari. And Ferrari says they sold some 500 of these already in the last couple of months, so people are seemingly buying them. I guess we'll see who ends up stepping out of one when they finally hit streets here in the US in 2027. But what do you guys think of the Ferrari Luce? Be honest, I really want to know your thoughts as a Ferrari fan and EV owner. Let me know in the comments down below. Also, be sure to follow Tech Daily on Twitter and subscribe to the Tech Daily YouTube channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys later.